Team, welcome to another virtual session of Black Salt, where agents in the field are training agents in the field. And today is a special one because we've got the great Danny Grant from Grant Space. We've known Danny for some time now. Danny's been in the industry for 27 odd years. Been with all the major groups as well. Has just come out of McGrath, just out of McGrath in Sydney. Danny, correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct. Yeah. So I was head of training there for 4 years.
Fantastic. And we've had the pleasure of working and meeting Danny through the Lee Woodward Training Academy. And we've known Danny for some time. And if there anything I know, Danny, are you still holding the record that your withdrawal rate is almost at zero?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it wasn't at zero when I finished, but very close to, let's just say. Yeah, I think
Yeah, so that's
I think there
something
was a
that
couple
Danny.
out of a couple of thousand, so it's all right.
Yeah, I think that's exceptional also. If anyone didn't get that, we all know as agents, we obviously we win the listing, and then it's our job to sell it. And sometimes we get withdrawals, and everyone factors in a 5%, 10% withdrawal rate. It's a lot less now with vendor paid advertising. But Danny is one of the very few agents that I've ever met that was so great at his campaign management that as is mentioned, out of thousands of transactions, only had a handful that have actually withdrawn. So a big shout out. So today we're super excited, obviously, to welcome and have Danny present to you guys the listing appointment that wins any market. And I think it's going to be absolutely invaluable. And of course, there's one thing about getting in the door. There's another thing actually winning the listing once you're in the door. So before I hand it over to Danny, who'll be sharing his presentation, I just want to say one big shout out, of course, to our industry partners that make this possible. And today's session is being promoted by Realty Assist, the vendor paid advertising platform that we absolutely love, has really changed our career. So our business, I should say, and helped business owners take their business to the next level, and obviously protect the vendor paid advertising component of their business. So a big shout out to all our industry partners from realestate.com, Colab, Gasleak, all of them. Without their support, guys, we can't be doing this. Okay, so on that note, I know there's a lot to talk about. I'm going to stop sharing. So as soon as I get to there, stop share and hand it over to Danny. So can we give all a big virtual round of applause to Danny, and thank you. And over to you, Danny.
Thank you. How are we going? We can see that now?
That's perfect, Danny. Awesome.
Excellent. Well, good to see you, everybody. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here. Now, tell me if this sounds familiar to you. You've gone into a listing presentation. It felt really good. They've said to you, we're probably going to go with you, but we just need to think it over. You go back to the office, you tell everybody, I'm so excited, this is a great listing. The next day comes, I don't call you. Second day comes, I don't call you. The third day you get that call and they say to you, not you, it's us, we've decided to go with another agent. We'll buy from you though. Really sorry about that. And it's really easy in that circumstance to think, oh, the other agent must have gone in and overpriced it, must have gone in cheaper. We give ourselves all these excuses. And the reality is we all think we're unique in our marketplace, that we're the only ones that have other agents that go in cheap and overprice things. And I've been right around the country in New Zealand training. I can tell you it happens absolutely everywhere. But here's the thing. You probably didn't lose it because of those things, majority of the time, because in the absence of value, people will select you on fee. So what it probably means is you just did not provide enough value, or you missed a lot of the 1%ers, because sometimes we don't lose listings by a long way. We just lose it by a couple of little things. So what today's going to be about is building a structure to your listing presentation so you can absolutely cover everything that you need to. And also those 1%ers that can mean the difference between winning or losing or not. Now, a lot of trainers won't go through these little 1%ers. It's a lot of things that people don't realize that we do in a listing presentation, that it wasn't just necessarily our skill or the things that we said, it's just a few of the little things that we did, a little nuances. Now, as I go right around the country, there's a lot of key issues that I find agents have with listing presentations. I'm going to go through the 8 key main ones for you today. See if we can try and fix things up for you. Now, number 1, struggle with structure. So a lot of agents go in there and they inundate them with information. They go here, there, everywhere, and they walk out. And then sometimes they think, what just happened? I didn't even go through marketing. I didn't even speak about my fee. Number 2, they aren't consultative. So we go in and we know what we need to do in a listing presentation and we're a little bit robotic, but we forget that we've got a client sitting opposite us. So we didn't involve them enough in the presentation. Number 3, we don't give the right first impression. Now this can be really crucial, that we don't realize we present for an hour and a half or 40 minutes, and we actually lost it in the first 2 or 3 minutes. We did something and we didn't realize what it was. Number 4, aren't mindful of body language and tonality. Such an important thing, that we were just so monotone through the presentation, maybe a little bit boring. Maybe we had too much energy. Maybe it was an older couple sitting opposite us and we just did not align. Number 5, can't articulate your unique selling propositions or your company's unique selling propositions. So one of my jobs is, what I do in training is I sit down with officers and I view their agents' listing presentations. And I might have 5 or 6 that present in front of me, and sometimes it's like having 5 or 6 different companies present in front of me. And one of the biggest things is that at the end of the day, I kind of go, there wasn't really anything to distinguish one agent from the other. So they didn't leave anything like a hook for me to think, yeah, I've got to go with that agent. So it's like, what is unique about your business and what is unique about you that's different to every other agent? Number 6, not understanding different personality types. So you are all one type of personality. If you've heard of disc profiling, or if you've done that before, you'll be familiar with what I'm talking about. There's 4 different types of personalities that we need to be mindful of. And as agents, we often present one way, what our personality is, but we don't realize that, well, there's actually different personalities sitting opposite you. So how do we get around that? Number 7, can't overcome objections. So we get an objection to fee, we get an objection to marketing, and we freeze up and we don't quite know what to say, or we get offended by that objection. So somebody asks us about fee and we're like, well, what do you want the best agent or the cheapest agent? Whereas they're right to ask if our fee's negotiable. Number 8, don't feel comfortable closing. And this is a really surprising one. A lot of agents don't close, or they don't close properly. It feels really awkward, and that's understandable because we think the client doesn't really want us to close. That's uncomfortable for them. But it's your duty to close and ask for the business. So I find that a lot of agents put way too much pressure towards the end. So we're going to go through some techniques today on how you can make that a little bit easier. Okay, let's get into it. Number 1, this is a big one, structure. How do we structure our listing presentation? Here's what I know about people. They're stimulus rich and they're context poor. Now, the reason they're stimulus rich, or the reason that we're stimulus rich at the moment, is because social media. We're used to getting stuff really quickly and we want to move on to the next thing. And sometimes agents go in with way too much information and they don't quite understand it. You walk out and they're like, I'll just go with the other agent. So we've got to actually focus the issue. Less is more in this regard. We've got to frame it so clients understand. Now, the best way of doing this is to have some sort of listing kit. Now, most of you who are going to be online have probably got some sort of company standard presentation that they roll out for you. Now, sometimes we look at it and go, I don't like that. It doesn't make any sense to me, because we just simply don't practice it. Again, one of my jobs as a trainer is to train different brands' listing presentations. And I just put my agent cap on and I think, well, how do I use that? And I haven't really found one that I can't utilize properly in a living room. So you've got to find a way to utilize what you have, or it could be just simply, I'm going to bring in some brochures, I'm going to take in a notepad, and I'm going to structure an agenda that way. But whatever you do, focus the issue. Now, let's get into it. Number 1, agenda. is one of the best ways for you to have a structure. So what does that look like? So you could create an agenda with a client on the spot. So you don't have to have a set agenda when you go in there. You could actually have a notepad and you say, look, what were you hoping to discuss today? What are some things you want to talk about? Well, we obviously want to know what the home's worth, what you think it's worth, what your fees are, etc. And we start forming a list. But then we can actually be suggestive and say, okay, what about negotiation? Do you think that's an important thing to talk about, how we're going to negotiate through the sale? Yes. And marketing, oh yeah, we'll have that. Or you can go in with a set agenda. And here's an example of one. So the first thing is we want to go through your goals and questions. Then we want to talk about property presentation and getting ready for sale. Then talk about working with us and what are the benefits of using our brand and me and my team. Then we're going to talk about buyer targeting, because we can't be all things to all people. We need to work out who's actually going to be the target buyer for your home, and then we can direct the correct marketing to get them emotionally attached. Then we'll talk about pricing your home. And look, we don't have to get caught up on getting the exact price tonight for your home, because no one really knows what your home is worth until we take a buyer through. But what we can do is look at the history. It's a good way of judging the future in terms of what your home is worth. We'll look at comparable sales and we'll start to form a logical opinion on where the value should sit. But then my job, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, is to try and exceed your expectations. I'd love to get a record price if I can. I can't promise it, but I can promise you I'll try. Method to sale and time frame. How did you feel about going to auction? Now we need to ask these questions because in some marketplaces where it's assumed you're going to auction, then you just need to ask. Method of sale, they could have something in their mind that, oh, I don't like auction, or I've had a failed auction beforehand, and we don't ask the question and we don't get the listing because we haven't asked the question. So ask about methods of sale. Then we'll talk through our marketing plan. What I suggest here when you're bringing marketing is don't just take one marketing plan in, because one is negotiable. It's human nature to want a choice. Triplicate of choice is what we call it. So that's taking in 3 plans at least. Probably don't take more than that in, because it gets confusing. And it's logical that people are going to compare to low, medium, high, and most of the time they pick the middle one. So the plan that you want them to pick is normally the middle one. But always take in 3, so they're not negotiating little elements off your marketing campaign. Then we've got your performance fees. So you're going to talk about what your changeover costs are. And then what we're going to do, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, is we're going to summarize everything and talk about what the next steps are. Was there anything else that you were hoping to discuss tonight? Oh, no, Danny, that pretty much covers everything, because that agenda does. Was there something you'd like me to focus most on tonight? Now, that can be an interesting question, because they might say, well, yeah, the marketing. Okay, what about the marketing? Sometimes we hear marketing, we think cost. But what they might mean is they go, well, what do you mean about the marketing? Well, actually, I work in social media, and I'd love to know what your social media plan is. Now, right now, this is where you get a little bit scared if you don't know much about social media as an agent, so you're going to get good at this stuff. Or maybe if you're using an outsourced company to do your social media promotion for your clients' properties, maybe get them to talk to them. But we've got to ask that question. They might also ask fees, and we hear fees and we think, oh, you just want a cheap agent. We go, well, what about the fees? Well, I get paid by incentive myself, so I'm interested to know if you've got an incentive scheme. So we've got to ask further questions. So that's how we start a structure. Now, how do we learn a listing presentation with structure? The best way is what I call in scenes. So if I'm an actor and I'm going to star in a movie and there's a whole production of 3 months, so I've got different things that I need to say throughout a script, I'm not going to learn it all in once. I'm just going to learn it in sections. That's the best way of learning a listing presentation. Have scenes in your mind. 6 scenes or 5 scenes is about right. And the reason that you learn it like that is because if an owner takes you off kilter and the conversation starts sort of drifting, you forget where you were. But if I know it in scenes, that, okay, my first scene is we do a property tour, we talk about the owner's goals and questions, I ask some consultative questions, and then we talk about preparing the home for sale. Then I know I logically talk about my team in the next section and my unique selling propositions. Then the next section, I talk about buyer targeting and the sale method. Then I go through pricing and I show them some diagrams. And then the next scene I know is marketing. And then I know the next is closing and summarizing everything. So I can always go back to those scenes. All right. Now, listing presentations. I call them 3-step listing presentations. The first step is the questions that you ask when they're on the phone. Danny, I'm thinking of selling. The second step is the preparation before you go in there. And then the third step is the actual listing presentation. Now, I think the first 2 steps are the most important. not the presentation. And that is because the better you're prepared, the better your presentation is actually going to be. So step one, somebody rings in, Danny, I'm thinking of selling, we've got to ask a series of questions. So it's a little bit of framework in my mind. Now, this is not an interrogation. This is a consultation. This is like conversational that I'm asking these questions. So we want to find out what the motivation is. So tell me, why now for you? Tell me about your time in the home. Now, the reason I'm asking them, tell me about your time in the home is I'm trying to pick what personality they are. So if they're what I call an amiable personality, they're going to say, oh, we've lived here for 20 years and we've loved every minute of it. And I go, how do you feel about moving then? Oh, I'm heartbroken, right? That's an amiable type personality. Now, if they're a driver personality or an analytical, they'll probably go, oh, it's just a house, time to move on to something else. Kids have left home. That's how they'll answer it. They'll sort of shut you down. So I'm trying to pick who are these type of people. Now, destination. So if they don't have a destination in mind, like if I get a price you're delighted with, where are you off to? They're probably not really that motivated. So most people that decide to move have already got an idea of where they're moving to. Number 3, time frame. Do you have a time frame which you need to be moved from here to there? So if I'm talking to them in September and they say that, oh yeah, we need to be moved by Christmas, I know my chances of closing list and presentation are pretty strong because they've got a bit of work to do to get that home ready and on the market. They don't realize how long that time can be. Property details. So this is where I need to start pricing the home in my head. So I'm going to ask them things like, okay, so 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, etc. Point out the key features. Has it got a pool? I need to prompt them a little bit because they won't always give you all the information. Number 5, I need to ask them, is there anything that you've done in the way of capital improvements? Now, I need to know, is it renovated? Have they renovated any part? And they go, oh yeah, no, we did some renovations. Okay, what did you do? Oh, well, we did the kitchen and we did the ensuite. Okay, you've just told me it's 3 bathrooms. So did you not do the other 2 bathrooms? No, they're sort of original. Okay, the kitchen, tell me about that. How long ago did you renovate the kitchen? Oh, 1976. You'd be surprised what answers you get. Anybody that renovates their home thinks it's renovated forever. So, and in our marketplace, sometimes kitchens that have been done 10 years ago are too dated now. So we need to ask, when did you do those renovations? Number 6 is price positioning. Now, I'll get to that in a moment. We'll skip over that and we'll just talk about setting up the meeting. So what we want to do here is we want to get in front of the parties that are making a decision, the key parties. And sometimes they don't think we actually work in the evenings. So it'll be you're meeting with one of them and you say, look, no, I'm more than happy to meet with you late in the evening. Is there anyone else that should be part of the meeting? So if you're a male agent and you're talking to a female and you say to her that, oh, is your husband going to be there? That's not going to go down so well. So the best thing is there anyone else that should be part of that meeting? Or you could say something like, look, I'd like to send you some information on myself and my company before I get there. Saves me talking about myself too much. Who should I address that to? Oh, my name's Jenny Smith. Jenny, is there anyone else I should address that to? Oh, it's my husband. Oh, will I be meeting with your husband as well? Or will he be part of the meeting? So we're going to ease into that. But we want to get in front of all the decision makers. Now, let's get back to price. We need to find out what they're thinking in price. Now, we don't find this out so we can tell them what they want to hear. That's not the reason. The reason is so we know what we're stepping into, so we can prepare a lot better. Now, there's some steps that you can do to this. Number 1 question I would ask is, would you like me to price it while I'm there? A lot of agents will come and see, then they go away and do their research, and then they'll come back to you with a price. I like to do my research up front. So when we're there, we can talk intelligently about prices. Would that be okay? Yeah, that sounds great, Danny. Look, in order for me to do that, now I haven't seen your home, but in order for me to do that, there's lots of comparables that are out there, but I'd like to just bring the most relevant ones. To help me do that, roughly what price bracket do you think you would sit within? Broadly. And we pause. Now, I can hear coming through the screen there some of you saying, yeah, but Danny, they're going to say, I don't know, or that's your job. And yes, they will say that. But let me ask you a question. Do they know? Yes, they do. They've already done their research. They've got an idea on price. They just don't want to tell you for 2 reasons. One is, yes, they genuinely want to hear your opinion. 2 is they're a little bit embarrassed about blurting out a price. It could be too high, it could be too low. So then what we're going to do is dig a little bit further. Okay, so is there maybe a comparable sale that you're hanging your hat on or that you've seen that you thought compared to your home? Then we pause. Now, this can be a long pause because what they might say is, oh, no, not really. Still pause. You've got to embrace that awkward silence. And you'd be amazed what happens. They'll then go, oh, well, there was this one house at 5 Smith Street that I saw, and yeah, we thought that kind of compared to ours. And you'll get it. Or you can prompt it a little bit and go, yeah, but sure. Is it 1.2, 1.3, 1.4? Then zip it. We've got to try and get something. Now, if they still don't answer it, what you can say is, well, look, based on the description you've given me, most houses like that, 4 beds, 2 baths, renovated kitchen, etc., with a pool in that zone, they normally sell between 1.1 and 1.2. Would it be okay if I brought comparables in that range? Then we pause. Now, they'll soon tell you what not to bring. So they'll go, no, a bit higher, so 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, yeah. Then you'll kind of get it. Now, if you hear 1.5 and you think this sounds like a 1.2 property, you know you're in a little bit of trouble. You know you need to prepare your comparables a little bit better. I probably would go in with comparables without prices on them. So I would show them the houses without the prices, and I would force their opinion. What do you think of this house? Yeah, that's like ours, that house. Yeah, that's very similar. What do you think that's sold for? Oh, it got to have been 1.5. No, it actually sold for 1.2. So it's a little bit of shock factor. So you don't always have to show comparables with prices, because otherwise they look straight at the price and they go, no, my home's worth more than that. You've got to let them look at the features. That still doesn't work. A good little technique is to say, look, what's your dream price? Because sometimes people will say price is a dream price, whereas not what they actually think it's worth. Now, a dream price, they could blurt out something high like 1.5, but because it's the dream price, you could say, well, maybe I can deduct 10% off that, and that's probably a reality of what they're thinking. Okay, step 2 is, what do we take with us? Number 1, take in a CMA. Pretty obvious. So sold and off, and what's actually on the market is really important. Not just what's sold, but what's currently on the market, because there might be a story there. There might be a property that has been on the market for 120 days and it's been reduced, and you need to talk about that. Take in some case studies. Now, agents across the country take in stats and case studies. We sold this, it went this over reserve, and we had this many people come through, and this is how long they were looking. They're pretty boring stats. People aren't going to remember them, but they will remember a story. So what I recommend that you're better off doing is say, look, there's a story behind that sale. Let me tell you about it. And you can show them how you negotiated through it and what sort of happened through the campaign, because they'll remember it. When we're going through case studies, it's just facts, whereas stories really sell it. They will remember stories, and it's a good way of showing how you negotiate as well. Take in a calendar of events, so that could be a blank calendar. Fill out the sequence of events that's going to happen through the campaign. I've listed a lot of homes in my career where people have said, you know why we've gone with you, Danny? Because you were organised, you had a calendar. And I think, God, I went through all this wonderful stuff and a calendar did it for you. But people who are organised love seeing you organised. Take in past brochures so you can hand it to them. You can show them visuals of what their marketing is going to look like, how we put the photos together, etc. You need to explain that in a little bit more detail and how you curate those things, or it could be a video that you want to show them on an iPad. Take in a vendor report, so a campaign that you've just done. This is how I communicate to my clients. And particularly if it's a vendor report on a campaign similar to the one that you're pitching on, then it's real evidence. So we can actually show these are the buyers that we had through. We could staple to the back of that the marketing plan that that client picked. It's real evidence. Then you want you to take in a buyer list. So we get a lot of agents that go into listing presentations and they'll say, I've got 5,262 buyers on my database and I know them all intimately. No, you don't. And if you've got an amiable personality that's hearing you say all these buyers that I've got, they're going to sit there like this and they're going to go, you're lying to me, because they need to see evidence. An amiable personality loves to see graphs. So if you've got a pie chart that's broken it up into postcodes and where all these buyers live and you've got a list of them, they're going to get goosebumps. They're going to go, great, evidence. So take in a buyer list. Social media report. So particularly show them if you've just done a campaign where the owner's done a social media campaign, what the results of those are like. So the social media companies that you use, they will have reports. They can give you a breakdown of male versus female and who's clicked on the listing, where they've clicked on the listing, what part of the world that they've come from, a lot of key analytics. Then take in your listing kit. So if you've got a company listing kit, take that in. Take it in a professional looking folder. There's nothing worse than when you've got bits and pieces of paper everywhere in manila folders. You've got your old leather case that's worn and looks horrible. That's a signal that it's like, geez, this agent's just not clean and neat in their business. If you don't have anything, take all these elements and just take a notepad. Some professionally looking notepad that you can actually take notes and write an agenda for the client.
And if I can interrupt a little bit here, Danny, just obviously before everyone came on, we were talking about digital pre-list kits or the analog kits, the hard copy kits. It'd be great to share what insights you're seeing in the current marketplace and a little bit of a shift.
Yeah, so obviously everything went digital because it looks impressive, and because of post-COVID, no one wants to touch anything. And it was a lot of speed to it, very professional thing, and you can see when people click on it and it alerts you. But what we're seeing is a lot of agents going back to physical pre-list kits. It was always an impressive thing that we used to do in our careers, that within half an hour, somebody calls, they're thinking you're selling, you have a team member drop off a physical pre-list kit. That team member sometimes gets invited in. They get you a lot of analytics from the client, what their personality is like, what the house is like. They can sell you a little bit. It's a great first impression. You don't just have to deliver it to their homes, you can deliver it to their workplace as well. So yeah, it's interesting how a lot of things that were very analog are coming back and a little bit more trusted from clients, because people are becoming a bit distrusting of social media and AI.
It'll be interesting, team. Those of you that are on, put in the chat, are you using analog or just digital? And Danny, obviously one of the founders of Realtor as well. So of course, the digital listing kit was one of your big things. But it's interesting to see the little bit of a shift. So I know Jared Carmen from one of our team is using the hard copy. But yeah, so just obviously for the purpose of today, those guys, if you're using digital, put digital only, or obviously analog. And as I just noticed with Marta, she's using both. It'll be great to get that insight, and we can sort of collate it by the end of the session. Back over to you, Danny.
You could use both as well. All right, let's get into the presentation. So that's step 3. So first thing you're going to do is the property tour. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing is when they invite you in, you need to establish your environment. So they might want to show you through the home, but what you need to say to them is, look, actually, yeah, that'd be great if you can give me a tour of the home, but I just need to put these things down first. The reason that we do that is because sometimes they'll point you to a lounge room to sit down, and that's where you're going to present. And the problem with that is that quite often you sit in the middle of the couch and you've got vendor 1 there, vendor 2 there. It's really difficult to present. So what I'm doing in that scenario is that I'm walking past that and go, oh, well, actually, I've got a lot of things that'll be easy to show you at a dining room if we can. And they'll always say yes to that. So put the information down, take a notepad with you, then do the tour. So you're going to charge this a little bit. You don't want to walk in there and go, oh, what would you like to do? You need to go, no, this is how it's going to work. And I'd love for you to show me through the home. Number 2 is show you care about the details. So take notes. Even if you're scribbling, I don't care. People notice if you're taking notes. So if you went to a restaurant tonight and you're with a couple of other families and the waiter or waitress took your order and they didn't write anything down, how do you feel? You get a little bit of anxiety. They're going to muck this up. Clients feel the same way. Why? I'm giving you all this information as I'm doing a tour. Why aren't you taking notes? So it's just that little signal. And then what you need to say to them is that, look, I'm going to take some notes, but if you could show me around room by room, like I'm a buyer, that'd be great. No one knows this house better than you, and I'd like to be the second most knowledgeable person about your home. And if you could point out any hidden value that may not be obvious straight away, that'd be great, because it all has a dollar value. Then what we need to do is listen, right, so you can retain some of the information, and restrain a little bit. I think a lot of fake rapport building happens on property tours. We go, oh, you're a golfer, I'm a golfer. And it's like, no, we're not ready for this relationship yet. This is a professional tour that we're going through. But you can prompt along the way and go, how long ago did you renovate this room? So what's your favorite space that you've shown me? Anything you would change in here for the sale? So if you go into a room and it's a bit weird, like I remember distinctly, I was on a property tour and the owner opened the door to one of the bedrooms, and it was full of these life-size dolls, not blow-up dolls, don't get me wrong. So life-size, ancient type dolls in dresses. And I'm like, what the hell do I say here? What are they going to do for the sale? So I just said to them, is there anything you would change in here for the sale? And thankfully they said, oh yeah, we'll get rid of all this and we'll style it up. And I'm like, phew. So always ask, because you never know, they might go, no, why would I change this? So you don't want to sort of step into something and say, oh no, we're going to get rid of all this for the sale. Okay, so we've done the tour. Then we're sitting down and we bring out our agenda. So you go through the agenda like I showed you before. And then what you want to do is you want to think about your first impressions. So that's our structure done. Let's think about some of these more 1%ers. First impressions. Now, studies show that people do a 3-step initial assessment of us when they meet us. So we knock on the door. The first step is the first 10 seconds. They open the door and they're doing a little scan quickly. They don't know they're doing it, but we all do it. So they look at things like hair, makeup, accessories, clothes, and shoes, and they judge you in that moment. Sadly, they do. That's the first 10 seconds. The next step is, the next 30 seconds is they try to validate their initial thoughts by their feelings about you in terms of your voice, your tonality, your body movements, facial expressions. So what they're doing there is, if their first impression wasn't great, they're like, now you don't sound great either. Then the next 2 minutes is they go back to thinking about themselves and can this person actually help me? And it takes 2 to 3 minutes to form an opinion of you. So again, we go in and we do 40-minute, hour-long presentations and we don't realize we might have lost it in the first 3 minutes. So how do we lose it? Sometimes you turn up late. You need to turn up 10 minutes early. Don't knock on their door 10 minutes early, but turn up early, be ready, sit in the car, whatever it might be. I have some clients that switch handbags. That's a little signal that we're doing a presentation. Some change shoes, some listen to music, some put on a tie, whatever it may be. But don't rush because your energy's not going to be right. You're not going to be ready. Key issue number 3, tonality and body language. So according to research, people attribute in face-to-face communication only 7% of the meaning to the actual words. 38% comes from tonality, 55% comes from body language. So what does that mean? They're only taking in 7% of what we say. It's not entirely true, but what this means is that your body language and your tonality has got to be connected to the words. So if my tone's just normal, my energy's not great, they're only taking in 7%. But if my tone changes according to the mood and what I'm talking about, my body language is there, then they connect to it. I'll give you a good example of what I mean. This is probably the best example that I can find. This image. Now, you all know that this is Joe Biden and Donald Trump, but the significance of this image is this is the first debate of Joe Biden going for a second term as president, and the first debate for Donald Trump to go for his second term and come back in. The significance of this is that Joe Biden, by all accounts, lost the debate. And because of the way that he performed, the Democratic Party said, no, we can't have you. We're going to install Kamala Harris. Now, if Joe Biden did better in this debate with his body language and tonality, well, the petrol prices would be where they are. Epstein files, we probably wouldn't be hearing about them. They would have been fixed up. It's changed the world, all because of tonality and body language. Now, they fact-checked Donald Trump during this debate, and there was like 32, 33 things that he said that weren't true. Doesn't sound like him. Joe Biden, however, that wasn't the case. But it didn't matter what they said because Donald Trump came off more presidential. His tonality was there. His body language was there. Joe Biden was a bit sick. He was president, so he just got off a plane. He was doing a lot of things before that. He simply just wasn't ready. So in our world, we've got to be ready. The energy's got to be right. We've got to be prepared. We've got to be confident because we've got one shot at this. Number 4 key issue is not being consultative. And here's the thing about just making statements in a listing presentation. Questions are more persuasive than statements. If we just keep making statement after statement after statement, they're judging it. Whereas if we ask questions and we have a bit more of a conversation, we get feedback. I'll give you a good example. There were studies done on people that pitch Hollywood scripts to production companies. So they've written a script for a movie, they're pitching it, and they're hoping that they're actually going to buy the rights to that movie. Now, what they thought going into this research is that the best pitches were the ones that it's a great story, and they get to the end and the production company's going, that's great, and they applaud it and go, yep, we're going to sign it up. So whoever's the better storyteller and the better presenter. But what was interesting is they actually found that the ones who had semi-incompleted scripts and asked a lot more questions about what the production company thought along the way, actually the ones that got selected. So in other words, they'd be talking about, okay, this is our main protagonist and we've got it as a male character, but we actually thought maybe it could be good as a female character. What do you think? And we've set the scene in New York, some of the main scenes, but we thought maybe even Chicago or San Francisco could work. What do you think about that? So they actually involved the production companies in it. So what the production companies would do is they go, yeah, you could do this or you could do that, or yes, and they're shaping it to what they actually need and what they're looking for. Whereas if they're sitting there and somebody's pitching to them and they're just listening, it's like, nah, I've heard heaps of these scripts, I'm not interested. Whereas if we involve them in the conversation, they actually give us a lot of clues. So that's the same in our listing presentation. We've got to ask questions and shape the listing presentation to what the client wants. Okay, so how do we do that? Here's some questions that we can ask throughout the presentation. If I could paint an ideal picture for you, what would a campaign look like for you? What are the most important qualities you're looking for in an agent? How do you feel about auction versus for sale? What do you think who do you think will be the buyer for the home? So rather than going in and saying, these are the buyers that are going to be interested in your home, ask them. Have you seen a recent marketing campaign in the area that you like? They might go, yeah, I liked one with Ray White or Jealous Craig, and that's not you. And you go, that's okay. What did you like about that campaign? Oh, they did this fantastic video. Oh, look, well, we could do that too. This is how we could do it. Don't be afraid of asking about other agents' campaigns. What do you think is the best time of day for us to do open houses? When's it looking its best in terms of light? Oh, look, probably around, middle of the day, sort of 12 to 2 o'clock is good. Okay, well, look, I've got a couple of time slots available. Would it be okay if I tentatively booked a time slot for 1 to 1:30? Yeah, that'd be great. It's a little trial close there. We can test them. Or we could say something like, what photos do you think must make the marketing? Oh, definitely this kitchen area looking out onto the back lawn. Okay, when's it looking its best during the day? Oh, look, around midday is beautiful here for light. Would you be ready in 2 weeks if I scheduled photos for that time? And we pause, little trial close. What parts of the home do you think buyers will love the most? Again, this is going to pick up your amiable personalities. And the reason I asked that, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, is that they might have told a story about, oh, we love this kitchen area and the kids come back home and we all gather here and have breakfast in the morning. And you go, it's a lovely story. If I'm going through here with a second appointment with the buyer, I'm going to bring them straight into this room and I'm going to tell them that story. Have you sold before? Yeah, we have. How would you rate that experience out of 10? Oh, it's about a 7. Okay. How do I make it a 10 out of 10 this time? So they're going to tell you what they didn't like about that campaign so you can make sure that you solve that issue this time around. So that's how we consult.
And
okay,
Danny, sorry for interrupting again, but it's such an important. As you know, with many of the team and agents, they're always talking about what's the next best question. How can we obviously have all these questions? In your experience, do you change your questions, or it's been a stock standard, your bread and butter questions, you know the process, you've internalized them, and you've been using it year after year after year? Because what I'm finding is a lot of agents go, oh, it's a boring question, it's not getting the cut through and stuff like that. Do you change your question approach, or have you in your career of 27 odd years?
A lot of them will stay the same. I think the mistake we make as an agent is that we repeat it all the time, so we get bored of it. But it's the first time the client's hearing it. But there's, the questions in terms of second questions that I might ask to probe a little bit more and get information out of them, they'll change a little bit. But most of the questions I ask, have you sold before? How did that go? How do you feel about auction? There's lots of agents that you could pick in the area. How come you selected us? They're all pretty much gold standard for me that always worked. All right, let's get into personality types. So as I mentioned before, there's 4 main personality types. Now, all of you as agents will be mostly one of these. Sometimes you cross over between a couple, and it's the same with clients. Now, I hear some agents that will say to me that, oh yeah, I always list amiable type, friendly people. That's my style. That's my clients that I get. And I say to them, okay, what's your days on market? Oh, it's 222 days, my average days on marketing. Well, that's because you're not driver enough in personality. You need to be more of a dictator with these people. So the key is to try and move yourself across these personalities and pick them. So let's quickly go through them. So firstly, we've got the analytical personality. So they're neat. They'll sit there through the presentation with their arms folded until you show them a graph. They have little or no emotion. They're sensitive to minute detail. They will pick up if you've missed a semicolon or a comma or a full stop. As I mentioned, data and graphs is what they want to see. They like if your documentation is error-free. So the 1%ers to win these guys over, they like to see an agenda. They like to see structure. Show them lists of buyers. And if you are sending a follow-up submission, really check it. Make sure it's error-free. So they're very introverted personalities. Then you've got your driver. A lot of people are scared of drivers, very arrogant type people, but they're the easiest ones to negotiate and work with because you just got to make them feel a bit superior. Dumb yourself down a little bit. So these are extroverts, recognizable as owning the room. Let me show you through the house, Danny, and what do you think of this and what do you think of that? So what do you think it's worth, Danny? You know, they're driving the conversation. They ask very direct questions. They can be a bit insensitive. They like if you're organized. They love an incentive scheme. That's a good 1%er for them. If you show them how you negotiate, they're going to love that. They're going to go, oh, you're pretty strong. They can be very house proud as well. So if you take notes and you're going through all the detail, they'll point out the 20 PowerPoints that they've got in the kitchen, the ducted speaker system. They'll be very house proud. Then you've got your expressive personality. So you can recognize them because they're generally wearing bright colored clothing, very happy type people. They get bored with ambiguity, so they don't really want to see a graph, these people. You need to match their enthusiasm. They're going to love it if you involve them with marketing. So like this is a video production that we could do, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor. This is how I see it. You know, do you want to have your kids in the video? Do you want to do this? You want to do that? Do something creative. Then we've got the amiable. So these are the ones that sometimes we direct all our conversation to in a listing presentation, and it's a mistake. And the reason we direct it to them is because they're friendly. They're the ones that are giving us feedback. You know, they're very welcoming. Their wife could be a driver and they're not talking to us, but they're really the ones that we need to be chatting to as well. So they're friendly, chatty. You need to talk about something about their house. These are the people that if you lose a listing, they're going to call you and they're going to say, I just think the other agent liked my home better. Now we hear that, oh, they just overpriced at the other agent, but it's because you didn't really talk about their house enough. You didn't say something simple, like even if you just left a great final impression and said to them, you know what, no matter what agent you choose, can I just say, you've got a beautiful house. It's got a fantastic vibe. Congratulations. They'll remember that. What a great last impression to leave it to an amiable. Okay, so you've got to appeal to their emotional side. That's the 4 personalities. Now think about which personality are you most of one of those and be very mindful of it on how can I adjust my presentation. Now this can be hard when you've got 2 different personalities in front of you, but you've got to be able to try and pick what's going to work for them. All right, key issue number 6, your unique selling propositions. What are they? If I could ask you a question, why would someone list with you? Now, I do this in training all the time and I get answers like, oh, we've got a good buyer database, we're good with follow-up, we work really hard, we work harder than anyone else, we're number 1 in the area. My next question is that the same as what everyone else is saying? Think about it. What do you think your competitors are saying? Are they talking about, I've got a buyer? Are they talking about they're number 1 in the area? Are they talking about they work harder than anyone else? You're going to get me through the campaign? Yeah, they are. So we've got to talk about what's the benefit to the client, what's something unique about you. Let's talk about a couple of examples. Number 1, your communication plan. If you say to the vendor, how do you like to be communicated to? One of their biggest worries and concerns is that you're going to be full of rubbish, you're going to say this, but you're going to do another thing. They don't just get it from real estate, they get it from other industries. They've had plumbers through their house, electricians through their house, dealing with an accountant, etc. One of the biggest complaints they will have is communication. They didn't turn up or I didn't hear from them. It's always a worry. So go through with a communication plan. These are all the ways that I communicate with my clients. What would best suit you? Oh, yeah, phone updates are fine, Danny, or we prefer text messages during the day, but if you can phone us in the evening. Are you okay with in-person meetings? I like to meet with my clients every Monday evening after 6 o'clock. Yeah, that's fine. Or they go, no, we're still working. It's a horrible time. Would you be okay with a 20-minute Zoom session? Would that be all right? Text updates. You could use a WhatsApp group. I'm sure some of you online are using WhatsApp groups. So we go through and we just tick how these people want to be communicated to. They'll just lighten up and go, that's great. Now, if you are talking about buyers as a unique selling proposition, you've got to have evidence and you've got to have an army of buyers following you. So imagine being in a listing presentation and we get to the end and they go, oh, Danny, we want to think it over. And I say to them, look, well, that's great. You should think it over. Tell me, help me out. What elements are you going to be thinking about? Well, actually, we're a little bit worried that maybe the house is not worth, we're not going to sell for what we want and we're not going to be able to buy what we want. Okay, well, look, I've got quite a few buyers in this price range looking for 4 beds, 2 baths, fully renovated house in the school zone. And I've got them all on WhatsApp group or a text message and telemessaging, whatever group that you're using to text these bulk text buyers. How about I send a text to them now? I won't give them your address. I'll just actually send out a bit of a message saying I've got a client that's thinking of coming to market. I just want to sort of test the waters and see who would be interested in having a look at it if I gave you an exclusive view. This is where it is. It's 4 beds, 2 baths. It's in this school zone. Send. Now, what am I going to get back live in that listing presentation? Well, some will say, stop texting me, Danny. I'm sick of hearing from you. Besides that, you're going to get back, yes, we'd love to see it. Yes, we'd love to see it. It's actual evidence. Now, you don't have to do it in the presentation. You could end the presentation by saying, well, look, how about I send an email to these buyers and I'll come back to you tomorrow with what a response might look like. That's real evidence, and that's a hook that someone could list with you. Another thing that you could do is a live negotiation in front of them. So demonstrate actually how you negotiate. If you do that in a presentation, that's going to be a hook. That's something they're going to remember you by, and I can guarantee you most of your competitors don't show how they negotiate. Okay, so we've gone through our presentation. We're lovely structured. We've gone through price, we've gone through marketing, and we're going to the dreaded close. Now, when a client opens the door to you and you're a salesperson, the first thing they're thinking is, salesperson's going to close me. I don't want to be closed. No one really wants to be closed. But if you leave and you don't close, what do you think is in their head? This person didn't close. Are they strong enough? If you're an amiable personality and they're a driver personality, that will be their one worry. If you close, you'll then win them over. You've got to ask the question. So here's some tips. Number one, whenever you close, shut up. You've got to pause. And the reason that we pause is because it gives a client time to process what was just said. It allows them to ask a question back, and it stops the filler words. So the filler words is that, well, look, we've gone through a lot. You're happy with this, you're happy with that. Yes, yes, yes. Well, is there any reason why we couldn't get started today? I'd love to get started. How do you feel about working with me? And we pause. We've got to pause and hear the answer. And sometimes you'll get a husband and wife, and the awkwardness is wonderful because they'll just sort of turn and look at each other, and they might go, oh, okay. Now, here's some techniques you can use. So number one, yep, pause. 2, it's just 20 seconds of courage. Just think of it that way. I've got to have 20 seconds of courage, got to close. Ask the question. Mini closes along the way will help. So that is that, have you got a solicitor or a conveyancer, or can I recommend one to you? Open house time slots. I've got this great auctioneer that I want to use. Can I tentatively book him? We're testing along the way. That helps build to a big close. You could also start with a close. So you could go through your agenda and you could say that, look, can I just ask you if what I say makes sense tonight and you're comfortable with the changeover costs and the marketing, you're comfortable with us, are you in a position to move forward tonight? Only if you're comfortable. You'd be surprised. Some of them might say, well, yeah, if everything's good, yeah, we can. Or they might say, well, look, we've got 2 other agents coming in, so you know how you can close at the end. Number 4, the authority, or depending on where you are in the world, agency agreement, Form 6, close. So that is that you haven't been able to close. You can use a form for them to fill in, so your agency agreement, or in Victoria, your authority, you can say, look, no matter what agent that you go with, you're going to have to sign one of these. Has anyone explained the law of selling to you? Oh, no, they haven't. Well, look, let me just go through this with you and show you. Okay, we put your names in here, blah, blah, blah. Solicitor, conveyancer, this is the commission that we spoke about, this is the marketing, and we fill everything out. And then we show them and turn it to them and say that, look, to activate our services, all you would need to do is sign there. You'd be surprised what people will sign. Now, people will put off things as long as we let them put it off. If they're ready to go and you've gone through all that, you can then close again and say, well, look, I'd love to get started. I've got some buyers I'm really keen to get through here. I'd be more than happy to phone those other 2 agents that you haven't had in yet, if you like. That's worked for me in the past too. Okay, number 5, they say, I want to think it over. Now, you all get that. Everyone always wants to think it over. What the hell do I say to that? The key to I think it over is there's an objection there. We've got to bring it out. So if you don't have an objection come out towards the end, there's something wrong. You've got to welcome that objection. So I'm going to try and get it out. What are the normal objections? Think it over. Okay, here's 3 ways you can answer that. This is the straight human one. I want to think it over. That's completely fair. Help me out though. What's the one thing that would make this an easy yes for you? Or we could reframe it. Let me think it over. That makes sense. It's a big decision. Can I ask, what are the main things you'll be thinking about when you're deciding? Or the elephant in the room. I want to think it over. That's completely understandable. I know when I'm about to make a big decision and I say I want to think it over, there's something holding me back. There's a reason. There's something I'm not quite happy with. Look, elephant in the room. I'm here. Let's talk about it. What's holding you back? And then we bring it out. Now, what can come out? Fee is a big one. So here's 5 ways around holding your fee. Number 1, you need to understand when they say, Danny, you're 3%, the other agent is 1.5, would you match their fee? All right? Remember, it's just a question. You can actually say no. I'll give you an example of that. I had a washing machine mechanic come out to my house last year. I only wanted 1 person, but you put it on high pages, you get 3, whatever. The first guy, I'm looking out the window and he's having a cigarette on the front lawn out the front. That's a no for me because I don't like cigarette smells on people. It's just a little signal I don't like. Second guy came through, had a beautiful polo shirt with his company logo on there. He was very professional. I thought, yeah, this guy will do. What did I ask? He gave me the quote and I said, can you sharpen your pencil on that? Can you do anything better? And he said, well, no, that's what the parts cost and that's what our labor is. And I went, okay. I went with him anyway. It's just a question. So people are going to ask and they're going to try. So you've got to reframe that we can say no. Or there's fees aside. If they go, well, look, would you match their fee? Well, look, fees aside, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, if we could sort that out and we can agree on a fee, would you be happy to move ahead tonight? They might go, oh, look, well, your marketing's more expensive as well. Okay, so fees and marketing, if we could sort that out, would you be happy to go ahead? Well, actually, Danny, we want a female agent. Okay, well, if I put on a dress and did your open house, and we adjusted the fees and the marketing, would you be able to go? At some point, you're going to get it with fees aside. But we need to know, well, why am I negotiating on a fee if you're not going to go with me anyway? So fees aside, would you be happy to move ahead? Yes, we would. Great, I can hold my fee, but that's really a yes when they say, yes, we would go ahead. Choice, so you can give them an incentive or a set fee, that helps, rather than just going with a set fee that's negotiable. Just say, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I have 2 sets of fees. One is a set fee of 2.75, or I can lower that to 2.2 plus 10%. So it's 2.2 up to 1.2 million, which is our agreed price. And if I get above that, it's 10% on the portion achieved above. And the negotiation can focus on that, not on your set fee. Or you can give them a negotiation example. Difference with me, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, is that the other agents will all say that they can negotiate. I will show you. So when somebody makes me an offer, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, the first question I ask them is that, thank you for the offer. Can I just ask you, how did you come up with that figure? Now, normally it's a step back and they're not expecting that question. They might say, oh, look, I thought it was a good place to start. Well, look, here's the problem. I'm going to go back to the vendor and present that offer and they're going to ask me my opinion and I'm going to have to tell them it's on the low side of value. So when they say no, what would your second offer be? Now, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, you're going to be choosing between 3 agents and different fees. I've just shown you how I can bring the fee up $10,000, $20,000 on the spot. So that's a negotiation example. If you're not comfortable doing that, show them file notes of how you've negotiated through something. Use a case study and take them through the sequence. Number 5 is match dialogue. So this one I learned from Lee Woodward many, many years ago. I've changed a little bit over the years to suit myself, as you should do with dialogue. But the match dialogue is, Danny, the other agent's 1.5, you're 2.75, would you match their fee? Look, thank you for asking. As a professional agent in the area, it is my job to know what my competitors charge. Any industry, we all know what our competitors charge. That's how we form our own fees. Now, my competitors also know what I charge. But can I ask you, given that they know that my fee is higher than theirs, why don't you think they choose to match my fee? And we pause. Because to match my fee would mean they have to match my results and my level of service. And because they can't do that, the only thing they can do is drop their fee. Was it about getting the best result, choosing the best agent, or just the cheapest agent? So that's comparison. Compared to what? What are you comparing me to? Okay, now we haven't been able to secure it. We haven't been able to close, and we certainly don't want to be that nasty agent that's pushing too hard on a close. We've tested it, hasn't worked. We're following up. How do we follow up? Number one, ask permission to call the next day, because quite often they'll say, I'll get back to you in a week, or I'll get back to you on Thursday. We call the next day, they're a little bit annoyed. It's like, I told you, I'm not going to come back to you for a few days. Ask permission. Now you're going to have some questions in your mind, Mr. and Mrs. Vandal. Do you mind if I give you a call tomorrow? No, that'd be fine. What time would suit? Number two, you might need to go back with buyer's reaction or feedback. Well, look, I said I was going to send out an SMS or an email to some buyers. How about I come back to you and let you know what the tone is out there, how many people we could get through? Or it might be that you want to talk to some of your colleagues in your office and they've got some buyers. There might be a recent sale or a listing with you or another agent that you can tell them about. Make sure they're receiving your sold and DL cards. There's a little bit of stalking. Those happen to get in their letterbox. It's stay top of mind. You can also stalk through social media. That's another conversation. But if you've got their details, you can use social media companies to make sure ads keep appearing in front of clients. Follow-up materials. So good idea to send some summary notes. So this is a professional meeting that we had. I just want to summarize everything that we discussed. Send that in an email or send a letter to them, or a handwritten note, just a simple handwritten note. Could have a coffee card with it and just simply saying, love your house. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Would love to work with you. Just a nice little follow-up. All right, now we've gone through a lot there. Where to from here? So apply some structure to what you're doing. I've given you some content and structure and how to do that. And think about those 1%ers. Think about that first impression that you're doing. Think about your tonality and your body language with the client, and you must close. And after all that, practice. Practice with yourself, practice in front of camera, practice in front of a mirror, practice with a colleague, I think is the best way. And that's part of what I do in training as well. I'll get a lot of people that come to me that want to learn listing presentations. The first thing I say to them is, fine, do a listing presentation in front of me now. You can imagine how they look at me. It's like I've just asked them to have sex in front of me. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that. So it can be confronting, but the more that you practice, the more you get out of your head and the more you can focus and consult with your client. Over to you, Manos.
That was fantastic, Danny. Seriously fantastic. So really, really, really some insightful things. I mean, I've been taking some notes here. I love how you talked about the motivation, destination, timing. We always talk about that. Some great feedback from the team in the comments section, and would love to go to a Q&A. And of course, team, you can reach out to Grant from grantspace.com.au. Is it .au, Danny?
Correct, yeah, it's our website. Yeah, so Danny at grantspace.com.au.
Yep. So please visit site. You obviously engage Danny directly. He is the master listing presentation. And if you haven't seen, I remember the one that you did with Lee Woodward and Christian and his wife and all that, Danny. And I still play it
Oh, yeah,
every now and then. So I
think that's still out there on YouTube.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. Really some great I mean, we talk about case studies, but change, just a slight change to sell the story, not the case study. One of your comments you said, and I could just imagine you in a listing presentation in the lounge room saying this, I want to be the second most knowledgeable person of your home. I think we talk about 1%ers, guys, but these are the 1%ers. And the way you, I mean, obviously personality traits, the way you describe the analytical, the driver, the expressive, the amiable, really memorable for that. And of course, the classic pause. I could go on forever. Like I do get so much out of these sessions myself. So let's put it over to the team. Let's get some Q&As. I know we'll probably just go a few minutes over time. There was some questions in regards to seeing a listing presentation, actual material, I think it was. Fabulous. Looking forward to listing, realigning 1%ers, presentation, like team, and just for obviously our Black Salt members and so forth, which these books, like the Hustle Playbook has got we call it the first listing contact document. So Danny mentioned about having great questions to ask from the phone call and then obviously through to the presentation. And it was it was uncanny. You mentioned that the presentation is one because of preparation. That was my daily email today. I'm not sure if everyone noticed my
Awesome.
daily email today. That was the actual
There you
title
go.
of
Great minds.
yeah, so thank you. But over to the team. Any questions, guys? Because I know I can ramble a little bit and hog the space. So questions is when everyone goes silent, Danny. The same
It's
thing
like an
happens.
auction,
20,
isn't it?
20 seconds of courage. Come on, let's go.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. 20 seconds of courage.
Come
So
on, David Wise always got a question. Come on, Dave.
I'm pretty sure
I
David.
think I think you just went through it so thoroughly, step by step. I really enjoyed it. I thought that was great.
Yeah,
The part that I think sometimes most of us get stuck into our head is the commission part, and you just explained that beautifully with with the example of a trader coming to your house. We just really need to get out of our head in regards to how much we charge. If you back yourself and you know that you're going to do the right thing by your vendor, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people struggle with that they shouldn't.
yeah,
So I thought that was a great example,
yeah,
that you shared with us. So
yeah,
yeah.
100%. That you've got to be asking for the business at the end of it. And I think it's actually more important today than ever. Like, I'm sure everyone feels that we're really busy and we're distracted, and there's so many things firing up. I don't think too many people want to be going through three, four, five listing presentation with a whole bunch of agents. And I think it's easier to be asking that question now. Can we get the ball rolling? Can we get the ball rolling? Whatever your authentic way of asking for the business, and just stick to your plan.
And
So
sometimes we get scared when they, like I remember doing a presentation and I'd sold a guy's mate's house, and he was his mate was quite high up in NAB, and this guy was high up in CBA. And he called me and said, "Okay, we're thinking of selling too." And he opened the door to me. So driver personality. And the first thing he said to me wasn't hello. It was, "Danny, I know that you signed up Matthew on the spot. Just letting you know that's not going to happen tonight. I've got two other agents coming in." I went, "Hi, I'm
Oh
Danny. How are
wow.
you?" And I thought, Jesus, this is. And he was there with his wife, and I got to the end, and guess what I did, Manos? I
You
still cried.
signed it on the spot.
you signed it
And
on
I,
the
and I
spot.
said, I said, he said, look, how do you feel about working with us? I got all these yeses. And he said, "Look, Danny, I've told you, I've got two other agents coming in. We're not signing tonight." And I just looked at him and I smiled. I said, "Yeah, but you'd be really disappointed in me as a salesperson if I didn't ask." And then his wife just did this turn and looked at him, and she's nodding. And he's
Yeah.
like, and I said, "I'm more than happy to call those two other agents for you if you like." And he said, "Oh, here, let me sign it." So it's
How
like, don't
cool is that?
you got to have a certain, it's a little bit of a smile, and I'm not being too aggressive. You got to find a way to ease into it. But it's like my kids growing up, man. I was like, they ask 7 times. I
Yes.
say no,
Yeah.
6.
Yeah. Love it.
Because
Love it.
they know I've just got to keep asking until I get a yes.
Yeah. And I think the way you just framed that and just say, I think you'd be disappointed in me as a salesperson not asking that question of you to get going with the business, because that is our job. It's like,
Because they get it. Yeah,
if
they
we
get it.
don't
And they go, "Yeah,
ask,
fair
if we
enough."
don't ask for a buyer to increase their offer, what type of salesperson are we in? And okay, so question, Brendan, when you are staying top of mind with follow-up items as you listed, etc., how often are you asking the question about listing the home? Example there, 2 to 3 months away.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Great
so
question.
I mean, you don't want to kind of be that constant annoyance. That's the reason that you don't kind of get it. So each time that you speak to them, is it okay if I give you a call in 2 weeks? Is it okay if I give you a call in 4 weeks?
Next.
Now that's the physical stuff, but there's lots of things you can do in between. It can be little text updates. It could be market updates, little notes. This is an interesting thing that I saw, an article that I saw. You've got to be the one that is following up the most, because 80% of I think it's 80% of business is one from follow up. It's like after the
Yeah.
10th follow up, I think is the stat. 2% of business is only one on the first follow up. So you've got to understand the stats, that the more that I do this, but not too invasive and in their face. So there's lots of ways that we can vary this. And also when you're leaving messages, people think, oh, they're ghosting me, they're not coming back to me. Well, they don't have to come back to you, but it does leave an impression. It's like when people say, oh, letterbox drops are a waste of time. And you go, people just throw them out and go, yeah, they do, but they've looked at your face first.
Yeah,
It's left an
100%.
impression.
Yeah.
So everything you do, it could just be a quick note. You don't have to call me back. I just want to let you know about this. That works. That
Yeah.
works.
Love it. And from Jasmine, she's nailed 100% of her appraisals in 2026. And something that she does is she arrives with a small box of chocolates and says, how personal is this? This is fantastic, Jasmine. The one you're in the top 10 last month. My mum taught me never to show up to someone's house for the first time without a gift. So they think of me all week eating those chockies. Well done. Love it.
Great.
That's great. Awesome sharing, Jasmine. And how do you present your buyer list, please, from Marta Nelson? So obviously you don't leave the list with them. So is it on the phone? How do you present your buyers?
Yeah, so well, there's two different ways you do it. You do it with lists. So I used to do it with, I'd have sort of in books, I guess, or in sections in different price ranges. So I could say, well, look, this is our latest report that we've printed off. You can do it on an iPad as well, or if you've got a WhatsApp group, or I used to use another app where I could actually record them and bring them up
Great.
and show them responses. So if you want to get really analytical on it, you can then break it down into postcode. So I used to go into another suburb where it was an area called Chatswood, and very Asian orientated area. And of course, the Chinese agents would say, you can't list with Danny, he doesn't speak Mandarin. And I'd be able to say to them, well, I'm not sure why that's important, because here's a list of buyers that have bought in this suburb in the last 6 months. And, they could actually see the evidence of how many were, Chinese or Mandarin speaking. So I actually had the physical evidence for it. I'd even go as far as to say that one of the things I'm very proud of with my team is that there's been 32 sales in Willoughby this year. We've actually already had 28 of them on my database. Here's what they were. So chances are that when you list with us, we've probably already got the buyer. So let me talk to you about a VIP inspection before we even start. So it's real evidence rather than I've got 5,000 people on my database, but show them lists. Be careful with, you don't have to have surnames and things on it. It could just be, Jenny and Danny and a couple of lines on what they've been looking at, how long they've been looking. Really nice, clean evidence. And a little story on these guys. I love these guys. I'd love them to buy it. So it shows that, you're close to the buyers.
Yeah, one of the techniques that a couple of our team have been using is they actually bring so obviously most of our buyer registrations at OFIs are through the app, but people are printing off that list straight off their CRM and taking in and say, we conducted 24 open for inspections last month. These are the buyer lists from the last 30 days. These are our hot buyers, whatever it is. And one of the other things, we're talking about when we started the session today, Danny, the directors EBU, what a number of our directors, those that are working and doing high volume, 100 plus transactions, they're actually bringing in the buyer's agent for the first 5 to 10 minutes of the listing presentation, and it's absolutely critical. So you make the appointment the next day. Danny, really looking forward to seeing you and Diane and sharing our insights to see how we can help you. Just to let you know, I will be bringing Arthur with me. Arthur is our one team buyer's agent. He's working with a few buyers at the moment. It'd be great if he could see your property for the first 5 to 10 minutes of the listing presentation. He won't stay for the presentation, but it'll be a really good to get a physical feel. And one of two things happen then. Number one, there's less cancellations of your appraisals, because there's the fear of missing out. I've got a buyer's agent. It's real. It's evidence-based. And of course, when Arthur or your buyer's agent, I know Jason Sterling has been doing that well with Ben, when they come into the listing presentation, as long as the buyer's agent doesn't take over the listing presentation, if Ben is listening, they stay for the 10 minutes and then they leave, fear of missing out. But as long as it's genuine, and I always say, Danny, we have these techniques. Everyone's got access to the same ingredients. We all have. And our USP is really our personality and how we put those ingredients together. And that's how you extract your USP. This is how we do things a little bit differently. And these are the results we're able to get and create that competitive tension between buyers and of course, getting you a better outcome. So again, and team, and I know we're over time, so I really appreciate everyone. Great attendance today. And before we wrap it up, make sure for those that have got the Make Your Home Their Dream, your listing kit brochure that's obviously available, obviously to AA members, but the agenda is there, the words and dialogue, because as Danny said, we have to have an agenda, and it's all there for you to go through. But one thing I learnt, I'm sure Danny, you learnt this from Lee Woodward as well, right? How do you become a great listing presenter in the lounge room, right? How do you become a great presenter? Who knows the answer to that?
You practice.
Practice.
And by teaching someone else a listing presentation. So if someone asks you, can you teach me how to do a listing presentation? I can guarantee you, if you're going to help someone with their listing presentation, I guarantee you, by you just going through that exercise yourself and looking at your phone call, because as Danny said, there's 3 to 4 parts to a listing presentation. It's the phone call, it's the preparation, it's the in-house, and then it's the follow-up. There's 4 sections to it. If you nail your process and you are able to teach someone that process, you become even better. And I learned that from Lee Woodward. I said, how do you become a great lister? Teach someone else to be a great lister. And it's one of the best advice that I've ever had. So team, any last questions? So all
Thank
good.
you, everyone. Thanks,
Yeah,
Danny.
a great big thank you to Danny. Again, please visit grantspace.com.au. Connect with Danny. He's an absolute gentleman in every respect. 27 years in the field. Congratulations, Danny, on the next chapter for you guys as well. I love how you've moved to Melbourne. Everyone's moving out of Melbourne, but you're coming through to it. So great to have you as one of our local neighbours. And love to have you
Thanks,
back.
guys. Thanks, Danny.
All right.
Thank you. Have a
Thanks,
good day.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.